Everybody, thanks for clicking on. Live coverage of the House Speaker vote will begin shortly. Hello, Pat Tolliver. Hello to Jeff Reynolds. Hello to all of you. It is an unusual, it's daytime doofus. Normally it's doofus after dark, but it's the daytime doofus episode as we are looking behind the scenes at the moment in preparation for Speaker of the House vote. And spread the word that we're going to be having a watch party and coverage commentary on the event coming up. We'll be starting soon. Again, backstage is what we're looking at the moment, if you will, kind of behind the scenes and in preparation as members will soon be making their way towards the House vote or House floor. Coverage will begin at noon officially with C-SPAN and some of the other outlets, and we will be cutting to those. Um, we kind of know the routine already. It is going to be a vote, a call for a quorum call first. We'll see the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have the opening prayer, then a quorum call, and once a quorum is established, the number of House Representatives members that will be voting today, once that quorum number is established, we will know the exact number of votes required to get a new Speaker of the House. It will be Mark Johnson from Louisiana, a Republican that was a vocal supporter of Donald Trump and also might have had a hand or two in trying to overturn the election. So he will be acceptable to the Trump wing of the Republican Party. We'll see what the more non Trump members have to say in their votes when that comes up. And again, that starts at around, all of that starts at noon. The voting will start probably about 12:45. So we'll be back with the vote. It will begin shortly. Oh, and I'm going to take the chat off of the side there. There we go. So chatters won't be on screen. And if you want the chat on screen, let me know and I'll pop it back up there. If you're just joining, thanks for clicking on. We will have live coverage beginning at noon. At 11:45, I'm going to come on and I'm putting some news together, checking the latest, and come on at 11:45, and we'll start our actual coverage of the episode, if you will, and then at noon, live coverage of the House Speaker vote begins. So hang in there. Uh, Chat is open, and if you're watching on any of the platforms, if you would like to join the chat, you can do so by going to the YouTube platform and going to the channel chat, American Dufus channel, and you can join the chat there. The other platforms do not support the chat, but thank you for clicking on and viewing wherever you may be viewing from. And we are just getting started. We'll probably be on here for at least a couple of hours, as this is the fourth round of voting. We've done this 3 days before, so uh, we're just getting started. Thanks for clicking on again. Be right back. Hey, sorry about that. Sorry about the commercials on there. I was away from the keyboard. I had to take a phone call. Again, thanks for clicking on. We are just beginning our coverage. Coverage of the speaker vote will begin at noon. Again, we've been through this 3 times before. Um, what will happen will be there'll be the opening prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance. The House will be called into session. The opening prayer, Pledge of Allegiance. They'll have the quorum vote to find out how many members of Congress are actually there. If it's 433, then 217 will be the number needed to elect a speaker. Again, Mike Johnson, a little known congressman from Louisiana, is the Republican nominee, and Hakeem Jeffries is the Democratic Party nominee. And that vote will begin probably 11:45, somewhere around then. And we're just looking looking down the hallway towards the House chambers at the moment. So stick around. We're just getting underway. I'll have some news coming up here in just a few minutes. Some other news other than the speaker vote, which we are covering today. So thanks for clicking on. Be right back.
I used to know there was another staffer who was with somebody.
No.
Just me.
You're on the hill. When did they call you?
You got here 2 hours ago. Yeah, sure.
I told Pedro like 3 days ago, we're going to need somebody on this, because we only had 2 people working. I was like, we're going to need somebody on this. Alright, that's great.
I have to bail out because it's also like 5.
So that's like, okay. He was looking for somebody that could do it after 3. That explains.
That's what I have to leave.
Bring long glass tomorrow. That'll happen. We'll chamber.
Well, I'm going to bring my 4 anyway.
It's probably unlikely, but
Obviously, I never would not.
in the chance.
Never would not. Wow, that's good.
It wasn't incorrect.
I would never. I'll go tomorrow. Not bringing my 4.
So they're doing this. I don't know how much it takes. I mean, roll call usually means one after another. So there's about 200 people in there, let's say.
Yeah, but it's not like on the House floor where it's very slow.
They just quick, yeah.
Right. Sort of action, right? What's the point of drawing?
Then got tabulated. You know, in theory, shouldn't take that much time.
Right.
And look how long it takes on the front.
I think I can order an Uber now. Where's your car? At my house. Where'd you get it? I have no place to park.
Pre-blaming. I'm not going to drive in there. There's no way to park.
How many spaces are there in that lot for dark?
Got to forget it or for everybody?
How many are there? Maybe 12?
Yeah, maybe a little more.
Not much more than that. There might not even be.
Is that right?
But so the rule is before 10 you have to park in the lot.
Yeah.
But if there's not space, you have nowhere to park. After 10 o'clock, you can park in any of the street spots. Like any Senate sergeant or spot. You can park only after 10.
I should have showed you guys a while ago, so they are doing that all the time.
Oh, good.
Have they already started?
It's already on the Jason.
Have they already started?
Already on the Jason.
What do they do about people who aren't here?
I think that was like 7 issues ago and got funds coming up.
knew I liked him. If things were still remote, I don't know.
They don't have any.
Senior to Dick Cheney. He's never in leadership.
In the House? That's a good question. I think he scooted pretty quickly over to the administration. I bet he wasn't that high up there.
There we go. We're on. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here. We'll pop back over to the coverage of the awaiting the beginning of the procedures to see how far the Republicans get in electing a Speaker of the House after having vacated Kevin McCarthy of his position some 3 weeks ago. We've seen some attempts to try to get a speaker. Jim Jordan kept trying and kept losing support, which is the wrong way to be going, as is pretty common sense. Anyway, it's Mark Johnson this time. They actually selected another guy yesterday, the guy from Minnesota, and he ended up withdrawing when it was obvious there was no path to victory. Last night, late, they affirmed Mark Johnson from Louisiana as the candidate. And again, we'll see how that goes. In some other news, again, we'll hop back over to that in just a moment. Israel-Hamas war coverage. Senate committee advances Jack Lew's nomination to be U.S. ambassador to Israel. We don't have an ambassador in Israel at the moment when when things are really breaking down over there or ramping up, depending on which way you look at it. Zelensky has said Russians are fleeing Crimea, and this is an historic moment. Apparently, the Ukrainians are advancing on the island that was annexed by Russia back in 2014. Up until that point, it had been Ukrainian territory. Blinken says he asked Qatar Prime Minister to rein in Al Jazeera's Israel-Hamas war coverage, according to sources, and this comes from the Axios. Now, the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this was are our news sources getting asked to rein in coverage as well? Or are our news sources reporting honestly? Are we getting spun? Because it's odd that you want to rein in the coverage. It just makes you wonder if you want to rein in one. If you're asking another country to rein in their media coverage, what's going on in your own country? I'm not making any accusations or anything like that. I'm just saying it's something to think about. And again, we will get to. Let me pop you all back over here where I know the feed is up, and there we go. Get his volume back up. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes, and at noon we will start our actual coverage. Here's what's going on. Again, this is kind of behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Live camera amongst the reporters.
I mean, it's a world where if they called it at like 6 a.m. And they
Again, if you're just joining us, thanks for clicking on. We're in the hallway heading towards the House chambers. Vote will begin, I'm guessing, around 12:45. House is going to be called into session at noon, about 4 minutes from right now. Hello to the Pink Flamingo, and hello to Nancy Monarch. Somebody left a... okay. Hang on. So we don't do the commercials. Make sure we catch that. Sorry for bothering you. Offer promotion to your channel viewers, followers. All right. Send me an email at americandufus, americandufus @gmail.com. And I've actually had a couple of people approach me that have kind of discovered the channel and saw some potential. So yeah, send me an email. We'll see what happens. Again, hello to Jeff Reynolds, Pat Tolliver. Thanks for peeking in. Thank you all for looking on. If you'd like to join the chat and you're watching on a different platform, then go to YouTube and look for American Doofus channel and get in the chat. And we will, let's get this show started. And of course, this is not a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is a test of the functionality of the United States government. As for the fourth time, we all gather here to see if a Speaker of the House can possibly be put into power in order to advance our government one way or the other. Now, there are those that think it's okay that we don't have a speaker and it's okay that nothing's happening in the House. And, you may have a valid argument. But as far as some pretty important things that need to be done, we need to have a Speaker of the House. Even, in my opinion, we need to go with the Speaker pro tem. The Patrick McHenry, the guy that stands on the box in order to be able to be seen above the podium and wields a wicked hammer. He will be gaveling Congress into session shortly. Let's see, we've still got most of the reporters waiting. C-SPAN is not up yet, according to my channel anyway. And I don't know what's up with this. I'm not sure why I'm not getting C-SPAN on yet, but it says they went on at 11:15. It just shows that I'm in queue, so maybe I've been blocked from C-SPAN. I wouldn't think that would be the case. Let's check in with the Washington Post. Okay, got a commercial here. We'll go to the Washington Post just a second, as soon as they're done with their commercials. And await the beginning of a rather possibly, I don't know, tense, humorous, informative to say the least, couple of hours as this vote takes place. We got audio coming from
A mood of optimism on Capitol Hill
right,
because Republicans think they might have finally found someone who can get enough of their votes.
Okay, that's interesting. Hold on.
The Washington Post, I'm Libby Casey. Who is he? Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson. He emerged victorious from a closed-door Republican
See what
vote
she
last
has to
night.
say
Now,
here.
He's the party's fourth nominee since Kevin McCarthy was ousted at the beginning of October. Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, and Tom Emmer each failed to get enough support from their own caucus. With me in the studio today as we await a vote on the floor is opinions columnist James Hohman, and on Capitol Hill, Rhonda Colvin. Rhonda, let's start with, where did Mike Johnson come from? Yesterday at this time, Tom Emmer was the leading candidate for the job. What a difference a day makes, Rhonda.
What a difference a day makes, hours make. Tom Emmer, of course, only was Speaker designee for about 4 hours yesterday. But Mike Johnson he didn't come completely out of thin air. He was a part of the earlier ballot of Republican members who wanted to be considered for the job early in the morning. And then Emmer was the one who was successful. But Johnson came out on top late last night. The caucus seemed pretty pleased that he got a lot of support in the room. So we'll see if that support makes it to the floor today. Of course, what they do behind closed doors may not always be what happens when they are voting publicly. So really the question is, who is Mike Johnson? A lot of people may not know or recognize him. He is someone who's further to the right in the Republican caucus, has chaired the Republican Study Committee. So when you think about those factions or the five families in the congressional GOP, that one leans a little toward the right. Actually, it's about a step up from that Freedom Caucus. He chaired that committee. He's also on the House Judiciary Committee. There is a Trump factor that is making headlines with his nomination as Speaker. He was, of course, a part of the legal
Trump
strategy
factor
for Trump during the first two impeachment trials for the former president. He also was a part of congressional efforts to try to overturn the 2020 election. He led an effort to send a friend of the court brief to the Supreme Court that was signed by 126 GOP lawmakers that claimed that there were challenges in some of those key states where
some
Biden
people
won. They were
are
questioning
hearing
the
red
validity
flag,
of that.
red flag,
So
red
we'll see
flag,
if that really
time
matters,
after
because
time.
remember, there were
Others
members,
are
especially
seeing
moderates
this
in
might be the
GOP
only way
caucus, who were
forward.
concerned about having a speaker who would not say explicitly that Joe Biden won the election. So we'll see if that is still a problem for some of those moderate Republicans. But overall, I can tell you about the mood here tonight, or today rather, is that a lot of people are anticipating this to possibly be successful. There was a lot of momentum last night when Republican members emerged from that room. We'll see if that lasted overnight. But right now it is.
Okay, we are going to the House floor.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we praise you, we love you, and we thank you for this day. Draw near to these members of Congress. Remind them of their calling to serve the true common good. Help them to be instruments of unity, peace, and reconciliation in our country and throughout the world. Bless them, guide them, and fill them with an abundance of your grace. May they decide everything for the well-being of all, and may they never turn aside from your will. May all that they do begin from you and by you be brought to completion. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House the approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be offered today by the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Newhouse.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, if you're just
For what
clicking on,
purpose is the gentleman
time
from
for the
Illinois
quorum call.
rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 7 of Rule 20, I move a call of the House.
Under Clause 7B of Rule 20, the chair confers recognition for that purpose. Without objection, a call of the House is ordered. Members will record their presence by electronic device.
And now we vote, or we declare whether we are there or not. Again, 433.
So
there are
begins,
two.
First of all, the
on.
establishment of quorum, getting all,
All
the
right, I'll
members
just
that
let
are
him tell
supposed
you.
to be there on record that they are there, and then after that, what's expected will be nominating speeches from both the Republican and Democratic sides, and then the actual count. Each of the representatives being called by their last name, standing up and saying who they will support as the next Speaker of the House. This will play out into the afternoon and for several hours. You can stay close to C-SPAN and C-SPAN the app if you want to watch along. You can call us and give us your thoughts as well on the process. 202-748-8921 for Republicans, 202-748-8920 for Democrats, and all others 202-748-8922. Up until the point where we start the process, joining us now, Reese Gorman of the Washington Examiner. He covers Congress for that publication. Mr. Gorman, good morning to you, or good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on.
Tell me what you're watching for to play out over the next couple of hours.
Yeah, so this quorum call will be important to see how many members are absent, and that will show us how many votes Mike Johnson can lose and still become Speaker on the Republican side. Now, there has not been as much opposition against him as you've seen the past two candidates that have been nominated, Scalise, Jordan, and then Emmer, who was a nominee for 4 hours. So it is likely that he will become Speaker today, but I think you have a couple absences, so he might only be able to lose 3 GOP votes, where usually it would be 4. And so there is a tight margin, so it's still up. I mean, there's still a possibility he will go to he will have to go to second ballot, but the opposition really is not there like we've seen for the past nominees.
Has any opposition emerged since last night?
No, actually, the opposite has happened. We've seen multiple people that voted present in the room are now planning on voting for him on the floor. That includes Thomas Massey of Kentucky, French Hill of Arkansas, who voted present, and now they're going to be voting for him on the floor. They're supporting him. And so that really shows that he might very well become Speaker on this first ballot, because there's not really much public opposition. I mean, Mike Lawler, a Republican from New York, a moderate Republican, voted for him in the room, so he would support Mike Johnson on the floor. And he was one of the moderate members that opposed Jordan on all 3 ballots. So this is really kind of looking good for Mike Johnson. And now there might be some people who are just not making their position known, but that does not seem very likely right now.
Is there a sense of the pitch that Mike Johnson gave his fellow Republicans going into this to gain their support?
Yes. So we just received a letter that he sent to his colleagues on Monday that kind of laid out his policy priorities, laid out his plan for the appropriation process, and how he would avoid a government shutdown. In this kind of letter, he laid out that one of his first orders of business would be to pass McCall's resolution Chairman McCall, of Foreign Affairs to condemn Hamas and basically a resolution condemning Hamas and supporting Israel. Right after that, it would be to go straight into a stopgap continuing resolution funding measure that would fund the government through either January 15th or April 15th, depending on where the conference is at, to give them time to work on those 12 appropriation bills and pass them. And so his plan is to pass a stopgap measure because if you remember, as you remember, the government funding runs out November 17th. So it's really possible that we have a government shutdown. We're really coming right up onto the wire there. So he wants to extend that to give us more time to work on appropriation bills, to pass these measures to ensure the government stays funded. And so he wants to start working on those individually. The House has already passed a couple. They need to pass more. The Senate has not passed any. So you're going to have to pass them going to conference. So you're going to need time to do that. And that's really something he wants to focus on. He wants, like McCarthy and like all the other speaker nominees and candidates prior to him, they don't want an omnibus. They don't want a minibus. They want each 12 individual appropriation bills. So that's what he said that he's committed to doing, is ensuring that those 12 appropriation bills get passed.
Mr. Gorman, there's other reporting this morning this afternoon from Senator Romney apparently saying about Mike Johnson, apparently experience isn't necessary for the speaker job. We're down to folks who haven't had leadership or chairmanship roles, which means their administration of the House will be a new experience for them. Taking that vein, is there concern about the learning curve that Mike Johnson faces should he become House Speaker?
I think there's always going to be a learning curve, yes. One thing is he is currently vice chair of the House Republican Conference, so he is in leadership. Now, there does not compare to being speaker whatsoever. I mean, Emmer definitely had a lot of experience because he was whip. Scalise had a lot of experience because he was majority leader. That learning curve would have been a lot smaller than what Mike Johnson's is going to be. But again, he's going to, I mean, McCarthy's still, and I think McCarthy still being a member of Congress is going to help him out a lot. He can lean on McCarthy for advice. Scalise is also from Louisiana. They know each other really well. Mike Johnson's called Scalise a really good friend. Scalise can help him out as well. And so I think you're going to see people really helping him out. And Mike Johnson's a policy guy. He's not a he's not a real politics guy. He loves policy. He's very a social conservative. He cares about funding the government, fiscal conservative. And so I think you're going to see a lot of policy stuff come out of here. And he really is smart on policy. But then you're also going to see him have to lean on people like McCarthy, people like Emmer and Scalise for the more political side, kind of learning how to wrangle the conference together. I think that is going to be a learning curve, and it's going to be hard, especially in this narrow majority that you see. People are okay with blocking whatever comes to the floor, whatever bill comes to the floor that they don't like, and they want everything they want or nothing at all. So I think it is definitely going to be hard to go straight into this position.
Not sure what happened there. We suddenly lost the C-SPAN stream. I've got two other backup streams.
Not sure what happened there. We lost
I'm monitoring myself, and now you're going to hear me in the background. There we go.
Yeah. It's just you now.
Just me now. Oh, thank you. Again, thanks for clicking on. This is coverage of the House Speaker vote. It's going to begin shortly. We are having the quorum call right now, and let me find a place we can monitor. There we go, I think. There we go. So the quorum call has gone on for 7 minutes now, or 7 minutes left, just over 7 minutes left. 163 are there at the moment. The quorum call, while scheduled for 15 minutes, that will not be a hard close, if you will. The quorum call will remain open after the 6 minutes and 40 seconds runs out. And at the moment, 171 present to 260, 175, 258. Normally it is 433. There are 2 House seats that are currently vacant, and states are working to send replacements to fill out the term before the upcoming election in 2024. We've got 99 Republicans present, 86 of the Democratic Party. If you've been watching for a moment, you heard the Capitol Hill reporter talk about how he wouldn't be surprised if Republicans didn't get this guy through on the first ballot. So we'll see if he does indeed have that much support. You also heard, if you were listening, that he was a very vocal Trump supporter, and that he actually might have had a hand in trying to keep Trump in power and overturn the election. So a little bit troubling to some of us, but nonetheless, that may be who the Republicans have finally agreed upon. It is actually their vote. The Democrats are in minority with only 212 congressional seats at the moment. And the longer this goes, the longer we do not have a Speaker of the House and everything is inactive, the longer it goes, the worse that is going to become for various at-risk House members, such as Lorraine Boebert. She only won by just under 600 votes last time around. And now everything that's happened with her, she is a very vulnerable seat that could flip to the Democratic Party. There are enough others that a Democratic majority in Congress in 2024 is not at all out of the realm of possibility. Of course, what happens in Israel, what happens in Ukraine, what happens around the world as well as here at home. It's a long time. It's 13 months before we have the November 2024 elections. So a lot can happen in that time period. But there are those that will remember and those that will remind that this has been a major clusterfuck by the Republicans in the House, and that will be spun as they are not prepared to lead. 3 minutes, 30 seconds still remaining in the quorum call. Let me see if I can get C-SPAN. They are back. We'll go back to C-SPAN.
And cry like a baby. And I also think that Mr. Trump needs to kind of park it a little bit, not get involved with this. He's got his own problems. And I think Chuck Schumer needs to get that phony fraud out of New Jersey, get him out of the Senate.
From Alan in Arizona, Republican line.
Republican line.
Thanks for taking the call. Appreciate it. Mike Johnson, dynamite. The Republicans will get their act together, get the 12 appropriation bills separately passed, and any former Republicans, shame on you, and any Democrats, shame on you for open borders, unbridled spending, shame on you. Go Republican Party.
Okay, that's Alan there. Again, we'll continue on your calls into the morning and into the afternoon as this process plays out. The numbers, 202-748-8921 for Republicans, 202-748-8920.
I like monitoring this so that we get to hear voices of our fellow citizens.
You can always text us. You can always post on Facebook, and you can also post on
There are the
X
numbers.
as well.
Hop in
if you
there.
want to make your thoughts known there. April in Pennsylvania, Democrats line.
Hi. I really hope that there are some Republicans in Congress that have some common sense and actually care about democracy. They let their party be overrun with extremists. Now, I don't understand why some of these Republicans, they're even in my state representing me, and we voted blue. Why don't they realize that, hey, we just need about 5 of us to side with the Democrats? Republicans still have the majority, So then they'll actually be passing laws that they want. So it's in the Republicans that actually care about this country in their best interest.
Okay, and we'll have to leave it there as the process starts.
It's not going to
House of
happen. That's
Representatives.
not going to happen because if Jeffries were voted Speaker of the House, it only takes one person to rise and say they want to vote on
The
removal.
House will come to order.
So, that's just not going to happen. It would just be more of a
Prayer will
stalemate.
be offered by guest chaplain Reverend Jeremy Legansky from Immaculate Conception Church, Elmhurst, Illinois.
Hang on here. We are.
Let us pray.
We're getting a. There. Let me get this. There we go. We've already seen that. I'm not sure what's going on with C-SPAN. That's weird. But okay. Let's see. They are back. Supposedly they're back live. We'll see. Where are we at? Where am I at? All right. Let me get something up here real quick. Here we go. And let me see if I can get C-SPAN back. Let's see. It shows they are live. Here we go.
Let's go to New Jersey Independent Line. This is Mike.
Again, I like to monitor this because we get to hear.
Mike in New Jersey Independent Line. Hello.
Hello.
You're on. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Mike from New Jersey, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Mike, let's go, buddy.
Yeah, I think the Republicans are chaotic. They need to find a speaker instead of Mike Johnson, like a Mitt Romney, who's really conservative.
Mitt Romney's in the Senate. You're maroon.
Most of the Republicans are all corrupted anyway, and the Democrats. I'm starting to hate the politics of this.
You meatball.
The call of the House still has 150 members to go before
so
they can start.
It's going to be a while. The
the
quorum
actual nominating process. Brandon in New Jersey, Democrats.
Brandon.
Hey, so a man who continues to stand in favor of collecting a paycheck while not working will run our government with the intent that people don't deserve social safety nets. He says, how about if a child, this is to a doctor, how about if a child is halfway out of the birth canal? Is an abortion permissible then? The same guy who believes the election was stolen. But hey, what he lacks in character, actual conviction, and experience, he makes up for by being a lapdog to a man with dozens of indictments. This should turn out great. I'm excited for the vote. I'm going to watch it like sports.
Okay, that's Brandon.
Dude,
Jersey,
don't be
Chad
a fool.
Pergram reporting for Fox News.
Be
saying
careful
that
what you
Speaker
wish
nominee
for.
Johnson writing a Dear Colleague letter to plan to fund the government past November 17th. It would fund the government on an interim basis with a CR, which would expire either on January 15th or April 15th. And that's based on the consensus of a working group. He sent that out on his X feed if you want to read it there. Victoria in Virginia, Republican line.
Hello, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Good, Victoria.
I'm just hoping that
Let's move it along.
we can all agree, Republicans and Democrats, to vote somebody in that's going to work for the people. And I also just wanted to say, everybody go watch the Shipwreck Show on YouTube.
Not yet.
In California, Independent Line. Sid, hello.
Yes, come over here, American
hi there.
Doofus, and watch the
I did
Shipwreck
not know I was
Show.
online. So
Thank you.
Three things. I'm a frustrated Gen Z voter who's just fed up with the Republican Party at this point. I'll just be voting Democratic down ballot.
Wait, are you a
in
Democrat or are
2020.
you an independent?
I'm a Democratic-leaning independent. I'm hoping the speakership will finish up. I think Katie Porter should be president in 2028. and I want C-SPAN viewers to subscribe to Let's Talk Elections.
Okay, let's go to Glenda in Kansas City. Democrats line, hi.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say that really looking at this Republican Party is nothing like someone my stepfather would have voted for. He was a straight ticket Republican, even though I'm a Democrat mostly. I have split my ticket in the past. This is disgraceful, and I am just disappointed that they can't come up with somebody who can at least agree that the election was not stolen. You know, my stepfather would refer to them as 000 for allowing Trump to dictate the terms of who can be Speaker of the House to them, and I'm referring to Tom Emmer. Maybe I should say 666. And thank you for taking my call.
Whoa. Olivia Beavers, the reporter, says that as of this morning, it was
666
Representative Johnson on the cusp
Okay,
of grabbing that
86,
speaker's handle. He
85
flipped
now,
3
still
present
not
votes
on the floor
in
yet.
his favor,
As we
and
await
no
the
House
quorum
Republicans
call,
have
we are
publicly come
monitoring
forward against them,
C-SPAN. I'll be back
nor did any of
shortly.
the House GOP internal meeting yesterday as well. So that's the state of play as we wait for the nomination process to begin, with 84 members still to complete this call of the House. Again, after that, nominating speeches, and then after that, people will cast their votes for the next Speaker of the House. This is on our Republican line in Michigan. Oscar, hello.
Hi, it's Oscar, and thank you. We are living in unprecedented times. We are in deep trouble as a country, and for anybody that's pushing back against this not being the normal status quo process, shame on you. I think we need to go through and elect constitutional conservatives for the Republican conference. And I think it is great that the Republicans are challenging each other to find the right person and not just going with the D.C. status quo, corrupt, lobby-driven business as usual. And I would challenge everybody to look at it from that way. Thank you.
We'll hear next from Lillian. Lillian in Pennsylvania. Hi there. Independent line.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. First-time caller, long-time viewer. Yes, I'm an independent, severe independent, as Romney would say. I am disappointed in the Democrats wasting their votes instead of being the adults in the room. We've known for a while that the Republicans were in great disarray. It's not the old Republican Party. It's a Trump Republican Party now. And the Democrats keep voting for the same person, Jeffries, and he's not going to get it. They should be doing better than that and really going across the aisle and supporting someone who is in the middle. I see problems with both sides, and I agree with some of the things that the Republicans espouse and some of the things that the Democrats espouse, but mostly the Democrats in general at this point. So Democrats, stop wasting your votes and reach across the aisle. Don't wait for an RSVP from the Republicans. You're not going to get an invitation from the Republicans. Take it upon yourselves. Think country before you think party.
Okay, that's Lillian there in Pennsylvania. Let's take you back in time to 2017 when freshman House member Mike Johnson did an interview with C-SPAN talking about a variety of topics, including how he viewed the importance of civility and decorum in the House of Representatives.
People say, what's the most surprising thing about serving in Congress? And to be honest, people are surprised to hear this back home when I say it, but it's the level of collegiality that you find amongst the colleagues here. And it's not just within the various conferences, but even across the aisle. So in our freshman class, for example, it's been a great experience. There's 55 of us that came in together, and we've all just worked really well together. We've developed some real friendships, and there's a common sense of unity over overarching purposes. At our freshman retreat, we all talked about how we wanted to change the tone in Washington and raise the level of civility. And so I drafted a document called the Commitment to Civility, and 53 out of 55 freshman members signed on to that. We literally made a contract with one another that we would raise the level of decorum around here and treat one another with dignity and respect, and even when we disagree, do it in an agreeable fashion, because I think that sets an important example.
That interview, by the way, the full interview that he did and conducted with us in 2017, available at our website at cspan.org. Let's hear from Michael.
It's important to listen to the calls of our fellow people, because we find out how uninformed some people really actually are. Just saying something about
Louisiana, and my mother went to Northwestern in Natchitoches, so I think that maybe make me a constituent of Mike Johnson. I don't believe in any of his values. I don't believe in any of his policies, particularly guns and gun protection, gun violence, protecting people from gun violence in this country. I don't believe in his whole policies related to the environment. And I'm certainly very concerned about his statements about his support of our troops in the Ukraine. You know, my father was a Marine. My mother was in the Navy in San Diego. And I was raised with a certain amount of values. And Mike Johnson doesn't represent any of those.
Okay, that's Michael in San Diego. Olivia Beavers of Politico reporting from the scene, so to speak, saying that she is now seeing some House Democrats going up and shaking Representative Johnson's hand. What that means, I don't know as far as the final tally is concerned. But again, watch as we watch it play out this afternoon. In Florida, Independent Line, Tom is next.
Thanks for taking my call. I just think the last few weeks have been indicative of the overall low approval rating for Congress. Having said that, I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Yes, the Republican side has been chaotic, more so than it needed to be. However, I think there's some representatives looking to make names for themselves in a very important matter. I will say, though, that at least they have the courage to stand up in front of their party, their party leadership, and broad view of their constituency, whereas as opposed to the Democratic side, where these representatives tend to pound their fists on the Capitol steps, but when they get to the chamber, they look to Akeem and Nancy and become weak at the knees and just vote with leadership. So I don't think anything's going to improve until we see more independent members on the floor. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to the vote this afternoon.
Alex in Phoenix, Arizona, Republican Line.
Yeah, I think Johnson will make a great speaker. I think everyone should look up what subversion is, and Epstein didn't hang himself.
From Todd in Chattanooga, Democrats Line.
I think this whole process has just shown that the Republican Party is out of step with the majority of all Americans when they're only concerned about finding somebody that didn't want the election, thought the election was stolen, and they're against same-sex marriage, and they're just out of step with everything with the majority of all Americans. And the whole thing that Trump has to approve who they're going to vote, that's just ridiculous. I mean, he is a criminal. He has got, indictments against him. He's got charges against him. He's already been proven to be a sexual assault. To me, it's all ridiculous. And it just proves that the Republican Party right now is not the old Republican Party. So as they kick Liz Cheney out, they prove that they are not the old Republican Party. She was a true conservative. She stood up to him. She stood up to Trump. And they ought to be ashamed of the press conference last night when someone asked a question about the election and that denial, and Representative Fox from North Carolina told them to shut up.
Okay. Again, you can see that on our website and the app, too. It's the Human Events' John Gizzi reporting that Representatives Massey, the Republican of Kentucky, Amidala of Nevada, and Hill of Arkansas, there were 3 who voted present in the last vote of the conference, all said this morning they're going to vote for Mike Johnson for Speaker. If that's the case, he's got the magic 217 number and is expected to win the Speaker's gavel on the floor today. Again, that's a prediction right now until the actual votes are cast and everything is done. From Arkansas, Republican Line, this is Jackson. Hello.
Hey, how are you doing? I think that
a lot that can be said about what this election interference persona that Mike Johnson and a lot of the Republicans in the House have is spoon-fed crap. I think that the American people need to do their own research, create your own opinions, and make your own observations instead of listening to your representatives who have obviously based opinions. You know, these are the same people who believe that Trump indictments are real and, you know, not election interference committed by our president, which is just horrific.
So what's your own opinion of Representative Johnson then?
I think he's going to be a great speaker. I think people want to paint him as extreme because of his opinion on the 2020 election, and I think that's false. I think he's very conservative, but I don't think he's far right. You know, I think one other thing I want to point out, just while I have the time, I think any Republicans that are leaving the party because of this charade that the Republicans are putting on in the House, I think they don't have conservative values. I think rather they care about throwing a tantrum almost because the government is governing amongst themselves. You know.
Jim is next in Dallas, Texas, Independent Line. Hi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You've cut people off about not talking about Speaker of the House. I can't believe you let that Tennessee guy go. The last few weeks, though, have been very challenging, but in my opinion, awesome. The blessing to us is it has given us a chance to see who is and who is not for we the people. Not casting any aspersions because I'm independent, but walking in total lockstep is not we the people. Hopefully soon we will now have a Speaker of the House and we get on with the people's business and not just the individual congressman's business.
So what's your assessment of Representative Johnson himself?
I think that he's going to be awesome. And
Why
I think
is that?
I think he's going to be awesome and he's going to be fair because of some of the things that people have said just before you took my call. Let's see the evidence. It's not been shown to us. Let's see the 14,000 hours of tape of January 6th. Let's see what really happened.
Well,
and
going back
we'll
to
decide.
Representative Johnson himself, you said he was going to be awesome. Okay. Specifically, why?
Because you played his tape of 2017, and it wants to have civility in the House, and they signed this deal. I would suspect right now, if you got him off to the side, he'd go, it's not as civil as I thought it was when he first got in there. But he still maintained his civility.
Okay, let's go to Margaret. Margaret in California, Democrats line. Hi.
Hello. I'm calling about Johnson, and he's an election denier. He wants to impeach President Biden, and he wants no money for Ukraine. So I don't see why people want the Democrats to help elect him to be Speaker. I think that's crazy. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
That's Margaret in California. If you look at the tally, 9 people, 4 Republicans, 5 Democrats yet to finish the call of the House, so to speak, as that's the beginning process of the nominating and election of a new House Speaker. Again, from the reporting we've seen and people we've talked to this morning and afternoon, it looks like a good path for Representative Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, possibly set to become the next Speaker of the House 3 weeks after the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, was ousted from his position. John in West Virginia, Republican line. Hi.
Hey, how we doing? I'm Carl. I've been watching this for the last couple of weeks, and it's exciting just watching the process. And I'm a Republican, living in Huntington, West Virginia, and I think it's fantastic what's going on, and I think Mike Johnson is going to be a great candidate, and I hope he gets it through first go.
Why do you think he's going to be a great candidate?
Well, he's a attorney, so he knows the law, and we've seen in the past he's worked with other groups and things like that, and I think that's good. He's a conservative, and I like that. I'm a conservative. And I just think he'll work great with the people.
Okay, that's John there in West Virginia. This is Steve. Steve in Alabama, Independent Line.
Yes, sir. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to chime in a little bit. I love being an independent because then you can really see the circus that's going around some of these MAGA Democrats and MAGA Republicans. because our mind is not already made up for us on having to vote a specific party. But one good thing I heard you chime in on is one good thing about Justin is his age. Okay, at least he's not a 60, 70-year-old person yet in the office. But, like the other caller said, look, this isn't yesteryear's Republicans, but the Democrats are by far yesteryear's Democrats. So therefore, more people do need to become independent and learn how to think and do research for yourself before having any certain political party telling you how to vote.
My question is, all these people that think this guy's a great candidate, they don't know crap about him. It's because they've been told by somebody he's a great candidate. I'm just saying. And, okay, yeah, the dude's handsome. His policies are Flintstonian.
About the speaker. I do
That's a
my
great
research,
word.
as the last caller alluded to, and I just looked at his votes.
There you go.
And Johnson. I also want to mention that's so important that we seem to be missing from this conversation is that he's second in line to become the president. So all of this discussion of his lack of leadership and did he get elected, become a congressman in 2017, as I'm hearing?
He was a freshman in 2017, yes.
He got elected in
Correct.
2016.
So he has very, very little experience in government, and he's literally 2 heartbeats away from the presidency. The fact that he was an election denier doesn't make him a conservative. I voted Republican in the past, obviously never again.
There are still 6 people that have not come to the floor prepared to vote.
If I may ask, what did you learn from looking at his votes?
1 Republican and 5 Democrats. Now, there are 2 ways to it. Hold on a second. I'm gonna
He also voted against
say something here.
Declaring the election valid.
Right, he did. It doesn't seem to matter to a lot of Republicans, which, is that moving past it, or is this guy, how much does this guy owe Trump? Should be the question. How in the pocket of Trump is this guy? And that's the question. Republicans who are not, what did you say? The right side of the right. Okay, so instead of saying far right, the right side of the right, because there are a lot of people in that organization that believe that there are rhinos, R-I-N-O, Republican in name only. There are those in the Democrat Party that's the Dino, Democrat in name only. Anybody that's a moderate, anybody that doesn't determine their vote on the party, but determines their vote on what's best for the people, they are always going to be Dinos or rhinos because they are not in lockstep. And want to point out that something that one of the guys said there, being patriotic is not being in lockstep. Being for we the people is not being patriotic, and it's not being in lockstep with a party when it should be about the people.
Rhinos are not that. Rhinos aren't the individual thinkers. They're the establishment that goes party line nonstop. And the other people that are upset and calling them rhinos are the people who are grassroots, who would think outside the box of the establishment is a rhino.
The establishment is a rhino.
So the party liners that like McCarthy.
Okay, we're listening to a call in on daytime.
I'm just going to correct you.
Daytime doofus. Here, go ahead.
No, that's what a rhino is. Okay, I got to talk to you here. But that's what a rhino is.
Thanks for calling in.
To the people on the right, a rhino would be your establishment people who toe the party line all the time, and what would be considered like the grassroots would be considered the people who would be, of course, that would be more the Trump people, but that would be the people who were more the willing to buck against what the establishment has already done. And I saw a lot of people, the dinos, you were talking about that. I went to a meeting where they were both sides were trying to keep people from running and locally.
Mm-hmm.
And both the Democrat and the Republican, and I can't remember what they're actually called, but I call them the head of the party there in that area, like in
Chairman.
The chairman, thank you. You have to like kind of get his permission to run,
Mm-hmm.
like that you're a Republican in good standing or a Democrat in good standing, however that works on the Democrat side. I saw them, both parties, hiring private investigators.
Oh, yeah.
And like trying to get people out on just the smallest of things.
Oh, absolutely.
So that they couldn't run because they weren't rhinos
Right.
or dinos. So that I just wanted to, I didn't mean to correct you, but that's kind of especially
from the
right,
Republican side, that's what, from the right. That's,
McCarthy would have been a rhino.
Kevin McCarthy was considered a rhino.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Right.
I just wanted to let you know from the right. That's when they say that word, that's what they mean.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you, caller. There we go.
You got a caller.
No, before he was in government, he was busy lobbying against gay rights and abortion rights and trying to get the Bible installed in public schools before he was in government. Okay. That's what, okay. That's what Mike Johnson was doing. He was lobbying before he was in Congress. I have no idea, honestly. I didn't do any background on this guy. We're currently at 4 votes, 4 people not there. So 1 Republican has not shown up and 3 Democrats have not shown up. The reason I actually stopped the calls and got on here was because there are 2 ways to influence the vote, is what I was about to say. You either don't show up, which impacts the number as far as total, or you'll see it at the very bottom of the vote totals when they do come up. You can vote present, which means you are in the House, but you are not voting one way or the other on the issue that is up for vote. So that lowers the total number required. If a few Democrats were to find a candidate that was agreeable, they could vote present, and that would lower the threshold from, say, 217 to 215. At this time, we're at 429. So you would need 215. And we'll see if it goes up to 216 or 217. Because that 215, that could be key. There could be, you could swing a 215 and not get to 217. So 2 ways to influence it, kind of, outside the box, but we're way outside the box always. You can do it by voting present, which will lower the number total required, or you can do it by simply not showing up, which lowers the total number required. We'll see if that plays into this. And I'm curious as to who the Republican is and the 3 Democrats are, because we're already at 48 minutes since the House has gavelled in, and it appears the quorum call is still open. Let's go back to the calls from our fellow citizens here.
I think that the problem with the Republicans, especially the far right Republicans, is that they believe it's their way and their way only. A prerequisite for living or being in Congress should be you have to believe in elections. That's the very foundation of democracy. So Mike Johnson may be a calmer, gentler Jim Jordan, but the prerequisite to be the Speaker of the House should be you have to believe in the election. Joe Biden won. The end of discussion. And that's my whole problem with the far right. They always say, we the people voted us. But they only are a small minority of one section of a House of Congress.
Okay. Michael there in Florida. Manu Raju of CNN reporting on his X feed saying that he asked the Democratic Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, about Mike Johnson's conservative politics versus Kevin McCarthy's, saying, quote, I don't believe his policies are more conservative than Kevin McCarthy's. There's no daylight between Mike Johnson and Kevin McCarthy on those issues. Says he doesn't regret the vote to oust McCarthy. So that's just some of the state of play as we wait for these final four people to finish the call of the House. Rudy in Texas, Democrats line. You are next. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning. How you doing?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to know why they're always complaining about Biden being old. I think he's smarter than all these Republicans in there right now. They're picking somebody right now. Can you hear me?
Caller, you're going to have to stop listening to your television and just finish your thought, please.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and I'm just wondering why they keep putting these guys that are deniers and everything, and they're getting threatened by one man that's being impeached and everything, or being having to go to court for all these crazy things that he's done, and they're just listening to everything he says. I just don't understand what's wrong with these people.
Okay, we'll take you. It looks like the gavel is cut down. We'll go back to the House of Representatives.
Are all members recorded? On this roll call, 429 members have recorded their presence.
Okay, looks like we're back.
The question now recurs on the election of Speaker. The tellers will please come forward to take their seats once again.
Nominating speeches will be coming. Interesting to see how much truth is a part of these speeches.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Always coming in hot.
Always. All right. The nominations are now in order. The chair now recognizes the gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Stefanik.
Mr. Speaker Pro Temp, Madam Clerk, colleagues, on behalf of the House Republican Conference, I rise today to nominate the gentleman from Louisiana, Mike Johnson, as Speaker of the People's House.
Keep in mind now, okay, this guy is the fourth choice, and he's going to be the best. That gets overlooked here, and I think, and also, stand up, dude. Tell them all to sit down.
We convene this esteemed body today at a time of great crisis across America, a time of unprecedented challenges in this hallowed chamber, and a time when our most precious ally, Israel's very existence, is under attack from forces of evil. Yesterday, our dear colleague, our former conference chair, our chair of Energy and Commerce, Cathy McMorris Rodgers, nominated Mike Johnson in our conference. And she put it best, and I want to quote her today. She said, quote, trust has been broken and we have come to a standstill. How do we restore trust between members, leadership, and ultimately between Congress and we, the people? Kathy went on to say, there's a sense that it cannot be business as usual. She went on to note, above the Speaker's chair in the House chamber is our nation's motto, "In God we trust."
Okay, is the standing ovation for God or for, not sure what that's about, but
Say, the
for
times
In God
in
We
which
Trust?
we are living demand boldness, unity, and transformational leadership that begins with trust in God and each other.
I was curious because there's
Trust
supposed to
is
be a
when the
separation
magic
of church and
happens.
state. And
In the story of King David, we are reminded that man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart, end quote. Today is the day that House Republicans will humbly look in our hearts and elect Mike Johnson as Speaker of the People's House. A man of deep faith, Mike epitomizes what it means to be a servant leader. A deeply respected constitutional lawyer, Mike has dedicated his life to preserving America's great principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mike is a titan on the Judiciary Committee and a dedicated member of the House Armed Services Committee. And as vice chair of our conference, he has united all of our members to speak clearly and boldly on behalf of the American people. A friend to all and an enemy to none, Mike is strong, tough, and fair, and above all, Mike is kind. And at this very moment, this Republican conference knows that we live in perilous times and the American people are hurting. Families are struggling under the pain of inflation caused by reckless far-left spending, unable to afford groceries, heat, or gas. We have an inhumane open border with millions illegally smuggled and trafficked, and tens of thousands of children lost in the chasm of the incompetence and negligence of the Biden administration. Israel is under attack by Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists committing atrocities, with Israelis suffering the bloodiest days in modern memory. Crime is skyrocketing on our streets, while there are vicious calls from the left to defund our great men and women in blue. American energy production has been crushed by Joe Biden's radical, failed, far-left Democrat policies, causing seniors, farmers, and families to pay more at the pump. And Americans fundamentally understand that the federal government has been illegally weaponized against we, the people, shredding the Constitution, targeting conservatives, parents, yes, I'll say it again. The federal government has been illegally weaponized against we, the people, shredding the Constitution, targeting conservatives, parents, and even Joe Biden's top political opponent. The people are looking to this great chamber to save America, and save America we will. And as we embark on the path ahead, I am reminded of Galatians 6:9. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. House Republicans and Speaker Mike Johnson will never give up. Today is the day we get this done. May God bless our next Speaker, Mike Johnson. May God bless the United States of America. And I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker pro tempore. I notice a little bit more of a smile on your face today than we have in the past. Mr. Speaker, I rise today at the direction of the Democratic caucus to place into nomination for the position of Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries from New York.
Republicans seem a little more confident they have been possibly in the past elections, so we'll see how this plays out.
Mr. Speaker, you may agree with this, but we are back here 22 days into this Republican manufactured chaos, and House Republicans have brought us to the exact same position that we were back then. All of the infighting, all of the disarray, just to end up where we were 3 weeks ago. These past few weeks, we have been left wondering if Republicans were truly intent on solving our issues, reopening the House of Representatives, and rallying around someone to lead this chamber. Or has this been about something else? Has this been about a focus of House Republicans to find the person who can pass their extreme litmus test to oppose marriage equality, enact a nationwide abortion ban without exceptions, gut Social Security and Medicare, and support overturning a free and fair election? It's a fair question. It's a fair question. No one. Nowhere in that candidate questionnaire is it about growing the middle class, helping our communities, keeping the cost of health care lower, and making life for everyday Americans better. The gentlewoman from New York said it right. This has been about one thing. This has been about who can appease Donald Trump.
He went there.
House Republicans have put their names behind someone who has been called the most important architect of the Electoral College objections. He's spearheaded, that's fair, we know how you feel. Yeah, you've made that clear. He's spearheaded the legal effort, joined by more than 100 of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, in support of a dangerous and baseless lawsuit to overturn the results of the 2020 election. On the eve of January 6th, some of my Republican colleagues even called this a failed strategy. Yet those same individuals plan to stand right next to him today. Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, House Democrats believe that when members of this body voted to reject the results of the 2020 election, they forfeited their ability to lead this chamber.
But what will Republicans think? This is going to be a key vote. This is turning out to be something of significance.
On this side of the aisle, we know what leadership looks like. Hakeem Jeffries has never turned his back on the will of the American people. The son of two social workers, he's always stood by the side of working families. The most pressing needs of everyday Americans are his North Star. He believes that everyone in America should have the opportunity to get ahead and achieve their version of the American dream. He believes that access to affordable health care is a right, not a privilege. He believes that reproductive freedom must be guaranteed, not stripped away. He believes that working families, not the wealthy and the well-connected, should be rewarded. He believes in growing the middle class so that everyone can succeed. He believes that our schools and our communities should be safe and free from gun violence. He believes that investing in public schools, not depriving students of fact-based education by banning books. He believes in taking care of our seniors and our veterans, not slashing their benefits. He believes in living up to the promise that America is a beacon of hope and a land of opportunity. He believes in defending democracy against all enemies and adversaries, foreign and domestic. He believes in standing by our allies, Israel and Ukraine. And he believes
Ukraine being
our
a key
government
admission,
running and open.
omission from what
Let me be
Republicans stated.
Let me be clear. This is not just a belief system. Leader Jeffries has the track record to back it up. He is certainly a far contrast from who Republicans have nominated, with or without their votes, to nominate today. But if House Republicans choose, they can still join us on a bipartisan path forward. Let's come together to fund our government, support our allies abroad, and deliver for working families. End the chaos and the dysfunction, end the extremism. Let's open up the people's house. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
The reading clerk will now call the roll.
Adams.
Okay, here we go.
Adderhold.
Again, thank you all for clicking on.
Johnson. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. Johnson. Allen. Johnson. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. Johnson. Armstrong. Johnson. Arrington. Johnson. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. Johnson. Bacon. Johnson. Baird. Johnson. Balderson. Johnson. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. Johnson. Barr. Johnson. Berrigan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida. Johnson. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. Johnson. Barra. Jeffries.
Obviously, thus far, no
Bergman.
one voting other.
Johnson. Beyer. Beyer. Bice. Johnson. Biggs. Johnson. Bilirakis. Johnson. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Johnson. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Johnson. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. Johnson. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Burkeen. Johnson. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan.
Mike Johnson.
Johnson. Buck. Johnson. Bouchon. Johnson. Bazinski. Jeffries. Burchett. Johnson. Burgess. Johnson. Burleson. Johnson. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. Johnson. Kamek. Johnson. Caravello. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. Johnson. Carl. Johnson. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. Johnson. Carter of Louisiana. Jeffries. Carter of Texas. Johnson. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez de Reamer. Johnson. Sherferlis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Siscomani. Johnson. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. Johnson. Cloud. Johnson. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Johnson. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. Johnson. Collins. Johnson.
Okay, it sure appears as if Johnson is going to be the nominee. No one voting
Johnson.
other as of yet. It's
Connolly.
primarily just a matter now of
Jeffries.
does the Republican caucus
Correa.
come in lockstep and
Correa.
united in support behind Johnson,
Costa.
or if anyone votes others.
Jeffries. Courtney.
He's going to be the speaker.
Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Johnson. Crawford. Johnson. Crenshaw. Johnson. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. Johnson. Davis of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. Johnson. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. Dela Cruz. Johnson. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. Johnson. Diaz-Pizito. Johnson. Diaz-Balart. Johnson. Dingell. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. Johnson. Duarte. Johnson. Duncan. Johnson. Dunn of Florida. Johnson. Edwards. Johnson. Elsie. Johnson. Emmer. Johnson. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshoo. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. Johnson. Evans. Jeffries. Ezell. Johnson. Fallon. Johnson. Finstra. Johnson. Ferguson. Johnson. Finstad. Johnson. Fischbach. Johnson. Fitzgerald. Johnson. Fitzpatrick. Johnson. Fleischman. Johnson. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. Johnson. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. Johnson. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. Scott Franklin. Johnson. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. Johnson. Fulcher. Johnson. Gates. Johnson. Gallagher. Johnson. Gallego. Gallego. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. Johnson. Mike Garcia. Johnson. Robert Garcia. Jeffries.
Okay.
Garcia of Illinois.
Again, Johnson is going to win the speaker vote.
Jeffries.
That's my prediction
Garcia
anyway.
of Texas.
The way it looks now, there's no votes for
Jeffries.
anyone other than him out of the Republican caucus.
Jimenez.
So apparently they are united behind him.
Johnson. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. Johnson. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez. Good of Virginia. Johnson. Gooden of Texas. Johnson. Gosar. Johnson. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. Johnson. Graves of Louisiana. Johnson. Graves of Missouri. Johnson. Green of Tennessee. Johnson. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. Johnson. Griffith.
The speaker in waiting, as in
Grijalva.
Democrats planning to take back Congress.
Jeffries.
I think that's what that
Grossman.
statement was about. We'll see how that plays
Johnson.
out in 2024.
Guest.
It appears Republicans are united
Johnson.
as a caucus behind
Guthrie.
Mike Johnson from
Johnson.
Louisiana to
Hageman.
be the next speaker.
Johnson. Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. Johnson. Harshbarger. Johnson. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. Johnson.
Again, one of the key
Higgins of Louisiana. Johnson.
potential
Higgins of New York.
other
Jeffries.
votes there in Hearns
Hill.
going for Johnson.
Johnson. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. Johnson. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. Johnson. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. Johnson. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. Johnson. Hunt. Johnson. Issa. Johnson. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois.
I think I almost forgot who he was voting for. A reminder,
Jackson of
we'll
North
be on
Carolina.
tonight at 9 p.m. with Chris,
Jeffries.
our Wednesday night situation report.
Jackson of Texas.
And we're going to be doing some focus
Johnson.
on Hamas tonight.
Jackson Lee. Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. Johnson. Jayapal. Jeffries. Jeffries. Jeffries.
And he gets
Johnson of Georgia.
applause for voting for himself.
Jeffries.
And Johnson will soon.
Johnson of Louisiana.
Here we go.
Johnson.
And everybody claps for him for voting for himself. Yeah. It's a shock, but he did it. Who would have thunk it? He voted for himself for Speaker.
Johnson of Ohio. Johnson. Johnson of South Dakota.
A lot of Johnsons
Johnson.
in Congress, just saying.
Jordan. Johnson. Joyce of Ohio. Joyce of Ohio. Johnson. Joyce of Pennsylvania. Johnson. Kemlager Dove. Jeffries. Capter. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. Johnson. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. Johnson. Kelly of Pennsylvania. Johnson. Kana. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. Johnson. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. Johnson. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. Johnson. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. Johnson. LaHood. Johnson. LaLota. Johnson. LaMalfa. Johnson. Lamborn. Johnson. Landsman. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. Johnson. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. Johnson. LaTurner.
Okay. There
Johnson.
very little suspense now,
Lawler.
unless something really
Johnson.
screwball comes
Lee
up.
of
Johnson is
California.
going to win this. It appears the Republican caucus is in lockstep
Jeffries.
behind him, so
Lee of Florida.
we are about halfway through,
Johnson.
just over.
Lee of Nevada. Jeffries.
No one voting others.
Lee of
And
Pennsylvania.
yes, Jordan gets
Jeffries.
a standing ovation for voting for somebody other than
Ledger
himself.
Fernandez. Jeffries.
And a reminder once again,
Lesko.
tonight. 9 p.m. Chris
Johnson.
joins. I'll be on somewhere between
Letlow.
8:30, 8:45.
Johnson.
Chris will
Lemon.
join at 9. We'll have our world situation
Jeffries.
report.
Liu.
We do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This is a special.
Jeffries.
Normally not on
Lofgren.
at this time. And another reason
Jeffries.
I'm not on camera,
Loudermilk.
because I'm going to be on a lot tonight.
Lucas. Johnson.
Time to start doing
Luke
research
Meyer.
on who Mike Johnson is,
Johnson.
because he is now the Speaker of the
Luna.
House, presumptive.
Johnson.
Luna voting for Johnson.
Luttrell. Johnson. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. Johnson. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. Johnson. Mann. Johnson. Manning. Jeffries. Massey.
I agree, Butch. They are just together
Johnson.
to try to put a speaker
Mast.
in.
Johnson.
He's very
Matsui.
religious, Nancy says, according to, okay,
Jeffries.
so that's what we should
McBath.
expect from Mike. Similar to Mike Pence.
Jeffries. McCarthy. Johnson.
And a standing ovation for Kevin McCarthy for voting for somebody other than himself. McCarthy and
McCall.
Jordan probably played a
Johnson.
big part behind the scenes in
McLean. Johnson.
getting this show of unity finally
McClellan.
from the Republicans after 4 tries. It's going to
Jeffries.
be Mike Johnson.
McClintock. Johnson. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. Johnson. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. Johnson.
Johnson. And McHenry gets a clap
Meeks.
for a vote.
Jeffries.
Actually,
Menendez.
it's for his service as Speaker pro
Jeffries.
tem, as he's about to be
Maine.
replaced.
Jeffries. Muser. Johnson.
Remember,
Mfume.
again,
Jeffries.
hanging over Johnson's head is going to be
Miller
that
of Illinois.
any congressman, any congressperson at any time
Miller of Ohio.
can announce that
Johnson.
they want to vote to remove the speaker,
Miller of West
and it
Virginia.
puts us right back to where
Johnson.
we were about to move out of.
Miller Meeks.
That has not gone away
Johnson.
just because McCarthy's not the speaker anymore.
Mills. Johnson. Molinaro. Johnson. Molinar. Johnson. Mooney. Johnson. Moore of Alabama. Johnson. Moore of Utah. Johnson. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. Johnson. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. Johnson. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries.
Okay, there's not going to be any big
Neal.
drama today.
Jeffries.
We're about to have Mike
Magoo's.
Johnson become Speaker
Jeffries.
of the House of Representatives.
Nels. Johnson. Newhouse. Johnson.
A positive
Nipple.
to this is that it shows the rest of the
Jeffries.
world that maybe we are getting our crap together.
Norcross.
A negative to this is this going to
Jeffries.
actually advance anything for
Norman.
we the people? All of that's
Johnson.
yet to be determined.
Nunn of Iowa. Johnson.
Yeah, where we're at now is the attention seekers will
Obernolte.
draw the attention to themselves
Johnson.
momentarily with their vote
Ocasio-Cortez.
because it's predetermined.
Jeffries. Ogles.
Donors had a big play in this,
Johnson.
and
Omar.
not the $5 and $10 and $20 donors that are,
Jeffries. Owens.
impacted, but big money
Johnson.
played a part in this, as well
Malone.
as Donald Trump. Don't discount his influence in this
Jeffries.
at all.
Palmer. Johnson.
But it's going to play
Panetta.
out 212 for the Democrat Jeffries,
Jeffries.
and
Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquale.
225.
Jeffries. Payne.
I don't know if they got
Jeffries.
a full quorum or not.
Pelosi.
And of course, applause for Nancy Pelosi, because who wouldn't want to applaud Nancy Pelosi?
Here's my applause.
Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence.
Like this.
Johnson.
There's old Greg Pence,
Perez.
Mike
That's how
Pence's
I
brother.
applaud
That's how you applaud Nancy
Jeffries.
Pelosi. Well, at least you're applauding her.
Perry. Johnson. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. Johnson. Phillips. Jeffries.
Hey, not going away. Welcome
Henry.
back. Hope everything's well.
Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. Johnson. Presley.
Elvis is in the bill.
Jeffries.
Not that Presley.
Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. Johnson.
Maybe a little bit.
Rogers of Washington. Johnson. Rogers of Alabama. Johnson. Rogers of Kentucky. Johnson. Rose. Johnson. Rosendale. Johnson. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. Johnson. Roy. Johnson. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford.
Great way to spend your day, Nancy.
Johnson. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. Johnson. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. Johnson. Sarbanes. Jeffries.
What the rumblings about generally it's all
Scalise. Johnson.
and Scalise, of course, one of the others that potentially actually won the
Scanlon.
nomination for Speaker within the caucus,
Jeffries.
but never took it to the floor,
Schakowsky.
much like Emmer.
Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Snyder. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Swikert. Johnson. Austin Scott. Johnson. David Scott.
Now, Scott was a candidate, but they didn't applaud him for voting
Scott
for
of
somebody
Virginia.
else.
Jeffries. Self. Johnson. Sessions. Johnson. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. Johnson. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri. Johnson. Smith of Nebraska. Johnson. Smith of New Jersey. Johnson. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. Johnson. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparts. Johnson. Stensbury. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stauber. Johnson. Steele. Johnson. Stefanik. Johnson. Style. Johnson. Stubbe. Johnson. Stevens. Jeffries. Strickland.
For the protection of voting rights, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Strong. Johnson. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. Johnson. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. Johnson. Tiffany. Johnson.
So Mike Johnson from
Timmons.
Louisiana about to be confirmed
Johnson.
as Speaker of the House.
Titus.
The Republicans,
Jeffries.
now in the past, Republicans
Tlaib.
have always voted in lockstep, if you
Jeffries.
will. This
Takuda.
current House of
Jeffries.
Representatives, the Republicans have not
Tonko.
been in lockstep on anything.
Jeffries.
This will be
Torres of
a rare
California.
sign. Normally, it's the
Jeffries.
Democrats who are
Torres of
hard
New
to
York.
organize. It's like
Jeffries.
herding cats. But as we've seen the past 4 times
Trahan.
throughout all the votes,
Jeffries.
Jeffries has been the
Jeffries.
obvious leader
Turner.
of the Democratic caucus.
Johnson.
He'll get his 212.
Underwood.
They'll all be in lockstep, and it appears the Republicans
Jeffries.
will be as well this time,
Valadao.
as we are nearing the
Johnson.
end.
Van Drew. Johnson. Van Dyne. Johnson. Van Orden. Van Orden. Vargas. Jeffries. Vasquez. Jeffries. VC. Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. Johnson. Wahlberg. Johnson. Waltz. Johnson. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman.
As the only candidate who represents the integrity of this House,
Watson Coleman.
do I need to say Hakeem Jeffries again because
Jeffries.
The House will come to order. The clerk, the staff, and the tellers deserve to have the attention of the House. The clerk will continue.
Weber of Texas. Johnson. Webster of Florida. Johnson. Winstrup. Johnson. Westerman. Johnson. Wexton.
I'm not sure what the quorum number was. It's either 15 or
Wild.
17.
Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. Johnson. Williams of Texas. Johnson. Wilson of Florida. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. Johnson.
There's 217. There's
Johnson.
218.
Womack.
Okay, so there it's official. Again,
Johnson.
thank you all for looking in.
Yakim.
We're not.
Johnson.
I'm not closing out. I'm just thanking
Zinke.
everybody for being here. It's official. We have a new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. We'll see how long his term lasts before he honks somebody off and
Johnson.
decides they want to remove him.
The clerk will now call the names of the members who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Byer. Jeffries.
I think they're all Democrats.
Boyle of Pennsylvania. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Correa. Correa. Gallego. Jeffries. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez.
So 3 Democrats not voting, it appears.
Van Orden. Van Orden.
If there are any members who did not answer the call of
Come
the
to the
roll,
well.
they may come to the well and vote at this time.
So the vote will remain open technically for a few more minutes to give everyone's voice a chance to be heard. And it appears that 3 of the Democrats did not show up to vote. And that would mean 1 Republican did not either. So a total of 4 not voting. And Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Speaker-elect. And we will hear from him soon, I'm certain. In the meantime, thank you, Butch, for being here. Nancy, Pink Flamingo. Let me go back up here. Sable, JCat K, of course, not going away. I'm glad to hear things are improving, and hopefully they continue. Lori Arnold, of course, always comes in hot. Didn't say anything about Trump being the president of a nursing home.
Oh, I said that back here, though.
Well, you said it back here, but, you know.
I've said it before.
Okay, all right.
I put it out there before. I've been saying that for a while now, that I think they both should just go run over in a nursing home somewhere and leave us the fuck alone and let us put up real candidates. Have a real election, you know? Just get rid of the 2 old farts and put them in the nursing home. They're both kind of little nuts.
Okay, do you think Trump had a hand in this?
In this?
Yeah, in this vote.
Oh, Jesus, I don't know enough about politics. I would assume. I don't know, dude.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I really don't.
All right, just wondering.
I don't think that he ever in his wildest dreams thought he would wanted to be Speaker of the House. He's got his mindset on.
Yeah.
In their
Here we go.
the total number of votes cast is 429, of which the Honorable Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana has received 220 votes.
Now I'll put it out there.
And the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 209 votes.
All votes having been tallied.
Therefore, the Honorable Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana,
And the
having
clowns
received a
cheer
majority
for
of the votes
themselves?
cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 118th Congress.
Interesting.
The chair appoints the following committee to escort the speaker-elect to the chair. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer. The gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Stefanik. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson. The gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer. The gentlewoman from Michigan, Mrs. McLean. The gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy. The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Donalds. The gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Hearn. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Bergman. The gentlewoman from Washington, Mrs. Rogers. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Fallon. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Molinaro. The gentlewoman from Florida, Mrs. Carmack. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries. The gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark. The gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar. The gentleman from California, Mr. Liu. The gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Delbene. The gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Clyburn. The gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Neguse. The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Escobar. The gentlewoman from Illinois, Ms. Underwood. The gentlewoman from Florida, Ms. Wasserman Schultz. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Kildee. The gentlewoman from California, Ms. Jacobs. The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Crockett. And the members of the Louisiana delegation, Mr. Graves, Mr. Higgins, Ms. Letlow, Mr. Carter. The committee will retire from the chamber to escort the speaker-elect to the chair.
Okay, what you're seeing is a little of the pomp and circumstance, if you will, of what goes on in the House of Representatives. Members of both caucuses, the Democratic caucus and the Republican caucus, called out to be part of the escorting party. If you saw the overhead shot, the aisle down the center is a little bit wider than the other aisles. That aisle is the dividing line between the majority, the seats for the majority members and the minority members. And they will come down that aisle, the center aisle, both Republican and Democrat, escorting the new speaker to the platform. Again, it's kind of the pomp and circumstance that we don't all often see, or don't always see, or haven't paid attention to. And it is rare. It only happens when a new speaker is in place, and that is what we have now with Mike Johnson, the speaker-elect from Louisiana. We'll continue on here for a few more minutes. I'm going to be back on tonight at 9 p.m. with Chris with our World Situation Report. We'll be talking about what's going on around the world, numerous hotspots, and with a focus on Hamas and what Hamas is, etc. So I hope you'll join us tonight at 9. We do that every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. And I've got a background, for those that don't know, I've got a background in government, in politics, in ministry, also in the media. And Chris has a background in counterterrorism in the military and policing. And he's traveled the world and worked with numerous world leaders. So between the two of us, we've got just about all avenues covered when it comes to trying to do some objective analysis of what's going on. We're not trying to influence people or scare people or do anything other than inform people, give people information so they can act how they deem according. And that's primarily for safety and for peace of mind. So we're not gonna tell you things just to be talking, and we're not trying to predict things or make things happen. A lot of the things we talk about that we can through analysis possibly see occurring are definitely things we do not want to see occur. So I hope you join us tonight at, again, 9 p.m. Eastern. That's 8 p.m. Central and 7 in the mountains, and 6 on the West Coast. It will be Doofus After Dark with Chris. So basically, we're awaiting the procession to, and let me see if I can get the cursor up here. This is the center aisle, right? Wow, right down through here is the center aisle. That's the well. And, oh, did I pause it? I did. Sorry about that. There we go. And they will be coming down the center aisle right here. Again, prominent members of the Democrat caucus, the minority caucus, which is over here, and prominent members and the entire Louisiana contingency delegation. They will all lead the new speaker to the podium, and he will be giving a speech to the to both sides of the aisle. So that's where we're at and what we're covering at the moment. Let me hop back over here into the chat and see if anybody has any questions. It's like going to a wedding and in 72 hours be looking at a divorce. Johnson's too cute. I don't like it. Suppose he decides to run for president. The only reason Weintraub Bush was first elected was because he looked like Johnny Carson. I never thought about that. He looked like Johnny Carson. But he did. Now that you mention that, W resembled Johnny Carson a little bit. Some of the while we're waiting, some of the things we have been talking about as far as the World Sit reports every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9. The explosion at the hospital, whether it was an Israeli bomb or a Islamic jihadists of Palestine misfire, the recruitment value that things like that have, and then a mosque in Jenin in the West Bank in Palestinian area, and a dominant black populated area as well in Jenin, in that part of the West Bank. Cross-border fire been going on between Hezbollah in Lebanon and Israel, as well as Israeli special forces incursions into Gaza and using a new weapon. It's called the Iron Sting. The Iron Dome is their missile defense weapon. The Iron Sting is an offensive laser guided mortar, and the first of its kind and the first time being used, and special forces used that. There has been tank movement and heavy equipment movement.
The new speaker and his swearing-in ceremony, which is coming up in just a minute. Mike Johnson, Republican, Louisiana, been in Congress since first elected in 2016. He's on the Armed Services and Judiciary Committees currently.
And we'll listen into C-SPAN.
I'll be right back. After he becomes Speaker. And the swearing-in will happen, and potentially the House will do some business. But if they don't, we will be here to get your reaction to the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, the first Louisianian to become Speaker, and he is third in line for the presidency.
an incredibly important fact. He is third in line: president, vice president, speaker of the House. So something happens to the other two, then he's the man. Well, I thought C-SPAN was going to be talking. I wouldn't think it would take that long. There we go. I wouldn't think it would take that long to put a procession together. They went out their separate doors. They go around to the other side. They just basically walk around the outside of the room, the chamber, and we'll meet at the center door in the back. That's where the president comes down when he gives the State of the Union address to joint Assembly of Congress. And the State of the Union, that's when you'll find all the Congress people, as well as the Supreme Court, the entire cabinet, with the exception of one, and the place is packed. For an event like this, it's packed as well. If you've been with us from the start, you might have noticed a lot of reporters with laptops open in the gallery around the top. Yes, we're waiting for the clown parade. That is what we are doing. We're waiting for the clown parade just because this is historic. We'll hear his speech, and then we'll probably end the stream. Oh, once again, I thought C-SPAN about to come on. The circus is coming to town. Yeah, it's been in town for a while. They're just putting the tent back up, I think. Here we go.
The House will come to order. Sergeant Barnes.
Well, he did bang that gavel
Mr.
like
Speaker,
he meant it.
The Speaker-elect, Mike Johnson from the state of Louisiana.
Here we go. The pomp and circumstance. And again, I want to hear his speech. Give us an idea of what to expect, possibly. And let's put this out there in advance. When he does give his speech, he will say something that Democrats will find abhorrent, and there will be and he will say something that Republicans find incredible, and there will be displays throughout this. All right, this is, after all, it's political theater at its core.
All right. The House will come to order.
Speaker Mike Johnson, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, Whip Clark, Chairman Aguilar, all of my colleagues in government on both sides of the aisle. It's an honor and a privilege to once again stand before you as House Democratic leader. From the very beginning of this Congress, House Democrats have made clear that we will find bipartisan common ground with our Republican colleagues whenever and wherever possible, for the good of the American people. And House Democrats have repeatedly done just that. It was House Democrats who provided a majority of the votes necessary to avoid a catastrophic default on our debt that would have crashed the U.S. economy and triggered a job-killing recession. It was House Democrats who provided a majority of the votes necessary to avoid a government shutdown that would have hurt everyday American. It was House Democrats who provided a majority of the votes necessary to secure $16 billion in disaster assistance for Americans whose lives have been devastated by extreme weather events. From the very beginning of this Congress, House Democrats have been governing for the people. We continue to look forward to finding bipartisan common ground whenever and wherever possible. House Democrats will continue to partner with President Biden and Senate Democrats to put people over politics. House Democrats will continue to fight for lower costs, better paying jobs, safer communities, and to build an economy from the middle out and the bottom up and not the top down. House Democrats will continue to push back against extremism in this chamber and throughout the country. House Democrats will continue to protect Social Security, protect Medicare, protect Medicaid, protect our children, protect our climate, protect low-income families, protect working families, protect the middle class, protect organized labor, protect the LGBTQ community, protect our veterans, protect older Americans, protect the Affordable Care Act, protect the right to vote, protect the peaceful transfer of power, protect our democracy, and protect a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions. These are blue lines in the sand, and we will work hard to make sure that they are never crossed. We must also continue to stand by President Biden as he works to bring American hostages and Israeli hostages held by Hamas back home. American hostages and Israeli hostages and international hostages back home. We must also stand by our friends on the international stage. And we have no better friend in the Middle East than the State of Israel. Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state The special relationship between the United States and Israel is unbreakable. Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad, and Israel has a right to defend itself under the international rules of war against the brutal terror unleashed on its citizens by Hamas. Our ironclad commitment to Israel's security and the effort to defeat Hamas is not inconsistent with the goal of achieving a lasting and just peace between Israel and the Palestinian people. In many ways, it is a necessary ingredient because Hamas is not good for Israel, Hamas is not good for America, Hamas is not good for the free world, Hamas is not good for the democratic aspirations of the Palestinian people. We must also support Ukraine in its courageous effort to defeat Russian aggression. There are only two paths in front of us. We can either stand up for Ukraine or bow down to Vladimir Putin. That is not a difficult choice. We must stand up for America's national security. We must stand up for democracy. We must stand up for freedom. We must stand up for truth. We must stand up for the Ukrainian people until victory is won. It is my expectation that in the next week or so, the Senate will send over for consideration a bipartisan national security funding package for Israel, Ukraine, and our other allies throughout the free world. That also includes humanitarian assistance for Palestinian civilians and others who may be in harm's way. The House of Representatives should take up this national security package and humanitarian relief package immediately, in totality, and without delay. The time for gamesmanship is over. The time for brinksmanship is over. The time for partisanship is over. It's time to get back to doing the business of the American people. Let me conclude. Let me conclude with an observation about the state of our democracy. Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election. He's doing a great job under difficult circumstances, and no amount of election denialism will ever change that reality. Not now, not ever. Throughout the years, presidents from Ronald Reagan to Barack Obama, Dwight Eisenhower to Lyndon Baines Johnson have spoken to this chamber and urged us to put aside partisan politics for the good of the American people. President Lincoln spoke to this Congress on December 1st, 1862, in the middle of the Civil War, and noted that we in this institution had the power and bore the responsibility to save the Union. The stakes were high. As articulated by President Lincoln, we could either nobly save or meanly lose America as we know it, the last best hope on earth. This is a turbulent time in the American journey, and we have but one charge to keep during this moment of great fragility. Our union must be sustained. Our union must be strengthened. Our union must succeed. There are many throughout this country who are understandably alarmed at the turbulence of the moment, at the chaos, the dysfunction, and the extremism that has been unleashed in this chamber from the very beginning of this Congress. But this too shall pass. Our country has often confronted adversity, and the good news is we always find a way to make it to the other side. We faced adversity in the 1860s, in the middle of the Civil War, when the country was literally tearing itself apart. We faced adversity in October of 1929, when the stock market collapsed, plunging us into a Great Depression. We faced adversity in December of 1941, when a foreign power unexpectedly struck, plunging us into a world war with the evil empire of Nazi Germany. We faced adversity in the Deep South in the 1950s and 60s, when the country was struggling to reconcile the inherent contradictions between Jim Crow segregation and the glorious promises of the Constitution. We faced adversity on September 11th, 2001, when the towers and the Pentagon were unexpectedly struck, killing thousands of lives in an instant. We faced adversity right here in the House of Representatives, when on January 6, 2021, a violent mob of insurrectionists, incited by some in this chamber, overran the House floor as part of an effort to halt the peaceful transfer of power. Every time we faced adversity, the good news here in America is that we always overcome. That is the power of American exceptionalism. That is why America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. That is why I remain optimistic about the future of this country. That is why America is the last best hope on earth. God bless you. God bless the House of Representatives. God bless the United States of America. It is now my solemn honor and responsibility to hand over the People's Gavel.
That was a great speech.
Here in the United States House of Representatives, to a family man, a hard
A little
worker,
long maybe, but
a Baptist man,
that was a great speech.
a Southern man, a son of a firefighter's household, the gentleman from the great state of Louisiana, and the 56th Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Mike Johnson.
Once again, the decorum, the pomp and circumstance of the people's gavel. There's the Bible. I recognize it. And everyone giving him a standing ovation, a sign of unity in the House, both the minority and the majority side. And here we go.
Thank you all. First, a few words of gratitude. I want to thank Leader Jeffries. I do look forward to working with you on behalf of the American people. I know we see things from very different points of view, but I know that in your heart you love and care about this country and you want to do what's right. And so we're going to find common ground there, all right? I want to express my great thanks for our Speaker Emeritus, Kevin McCarthy. Kevin has dedicated over 2 decades of his life to selfless public service, 16 of those years in this House. And you would be hard-pressed to find anybody who loves this institution more or has contributed more to it. He is the reason we're in this majority today. His impact can never be overstated, and I want to thank him for his leadership, his friendship, and the selfless sacrifice that you and Judy have made for so many years. You helped build it, Kevin, and we owe you a great debt of gratitude. I want to thank the dedicated and overworked staff of this beleaguered House. They accept praise so stoically. But Miss Susan Cole, our House reading clerk, and yes. Listen, all the clerks and all the staff, you know, they're terribly overworked. This has been a grueling process, but they have served an integral role in keeping our republic, and we thank them for that service. I know we all do. I want to thank my dedicated wife of almost 25 years, Kelly. She's not here. We couldn't get a flight in time. This happened sort of suddenly. But we're going to celebrate soon. She spent the last couple of weeks on her knees in prayer to the Lord, and she's a little worn out. We all are. I want to thank our children, Michael and Hannah and Abby and Jack and Will. All of our children sacrifice. All of them do, and we know that. And there's not a lot of perks to being a member of Congress's kid.
Thus far, the guy's likable.
And so I want to thank all of your families as well for what they endure and what they've had to endure for the last few weeks. We've been here a while. Yeah. I want to thank my faithful mother, Jeannie Johnson, who bore me at the age of 17, and my brothers Chris and Josh, and my sister Laura, and all their families, and all of our extended family. In Louisiana, family's a big deal, and we got a bunch of them. I especially want to thank all the extraordinary people of the great state of Louisiana. We have never had a Speaker of the House hail from our state, and so they've been lifting us up. I thank the people of Louisiana for the opportunity to serve you in Congress, and I'm humbled by your continuous support. We will make you proud. To my colleagues, I want to thank you all for the trust that you have instilled in me to lead us in this historic and unprecedented moment that we're in. The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down. I want to say to the American people, on behalf of all of us here, we hear you. We know the challenges you're facing. We know that there's a lot going on in our country, domestically and abroad, and we are ready to get to work again to solve those problems, and we will. Our mission here is to serve you well, to restore the people's faith in this House, in this great and essential institution. My dad, it was mentioned, my dad was a firefighter. He was an assistant chief in the fire department in my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, a little town in northwest Louisiana. On September 17, 1984, when I was 12 years old, he was critically burned and permanently disabled in the line of duty. All I ever wanted to be when I grew up was the chief of the fire department in Shreveport. But after the explosion on that fateful day, he nearly died, and it was a long road back, and it's changed all of our life trajectories. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And my dad, he lived with pain all the rest of his life for decades more. And I lost my dad to cancer 3 days before I got elected to Congress, 3 days. And he wanted to be there at my election night so badly. I'm the first college graduate in my family. This was a big deal to him. And so it was several weeks after that. It was early 2017. It was my freshman term, and it fell to me to be in the rostrum one night to serve here as Speaker Pro Tem. I thought that was a big deal until I figured out that's what you do for freshmen late at night. And I think if my memory serves, Miss Jackson Lee was winding down one of her long, eloquent speeches. And not that I was not enraptured by her speech, but I looked up at the top of the chamber there, and I saw the face of Moses staring down. And I just felt in that moment the weight of this place, right? The history that is revered here and the future that we are called to forge. And I really was just kind of almost overwhelmed with emotion. It occurred to me in that moment, it had been several weeks, and I had not had an opportunity yet to grieve my dad's passing, and I just had this sense that somehow he knew. And I had tears come to my eyes, and I was standing here, and I'm wiping them away, and then it suddenly occurs to me, the late-night C-SPAN viewers are going to think something's very wrong with the new young congressman from Louisiana. It wasn't Sheila's speech. I'm sorry. I just knew in that moment that my dad, my father, would be proud of me, and I felt that he was. And I think all of our parents are proud of what we're called to do here. I think all the American people at one time had great pride in this institution, but right now, that's in jeopardy. And we have a challenge before us right now to rebuild and restore that trust. This is a beautiful country. It's the beauty of America that allows a firefighter's kid like me to come here and serve in this sacred chamber where great men and women have served before all of us and strive together to build and then preserve what Lincoln did refer to as the last best hope of man on earth. We stand at a very dangerous time. I'm stating the obvious. We all know that. The world is in turmoil. But a strong America is good for the entire world. We are the beacon of freedom, and we must preserve this grand experiment in self-governance. It still is. We're only 247 years into this grand experiment. We don't know how long it will last, but we do know that the founders told us to take good care of it.
He's
I want to
good.
tell all my colleagues here what I told the Republicans in that room
As
last
far as
night.
giving a speech.
I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear. That God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time. This is my belief. I believe that each one of us has a huge responsibility today to use the gifts that God has given us to serve the extraordinary people of this great country, and they deserve it. And to ensure that our republic remains standing as a great beacon of light and hope and freedom in a world that desperately needs it. It was in 1962 that our national motto, "In God We Trust," was adorned above this rostrum. And if you look at the little guide that they give tourists and constituents who come and visit the house, if you turn in there to about page 14 in the middle of that guide, it tells you the history of this. And it says very simply, these words were placed here above us. This motto was placed here as a rebuke of the Cold War era philosophy of the Soviet Union. That philosophy was Marxism and communism, which begins with the premise that there is no God. This is a critical distinction that is also articulated in our nation's birth certificate. We know the language well, the famous second paragraph that we used to have children memorize in school, and they don't do that so often anymore, but they should. G.K. Chesterton was the famous British philosopher and statesman, and he said one time, "America is the only nation in the world that is founded upon a creed." And he said it's listed with almost theological lucidity in the Declaration of Independence. What is our creed? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, not born equal, created equal. And they are endowed by the same inalienable rights, with the same inalienable rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That is the creed that has animated our nation since its founding, that has made us the great nation that we are. And we're in a time of extraordinary crisis right now. And the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our admonition. Turmoil and violence have rocked the Middle East and Eastern Europe. We all know it. And tensions continue to build in the Indo-Pacific. The country demands strong leadership of this body and we must not waver. Our nation's greatest ally in the Middle East is under attack. The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor in just a little while will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we are going to stand for the good in that conflict. We have a catastrophe at our southern border. The Senate and the White House can no longer ignore the problem. From Texas to New York, wave after wave of illegal migrants are stressing our communities to their breaking points. We know that our streets are being flooded with fentanyl, and all of our communities, children, and even adults are dying from it. The status quo is unacceptable. Inaction is unacceptable, and we must come together and address the broken border. We have to do it. The skyrocketing cost of living is unsustainable, and Americans should not have to worry about how they're going to feed their family every week because they can't afford their groceries anymore. Everybody in this room should think about this. Here's the stats. Prices have increased over 17% in the last 2 years. Credit card interest rates are at the highest level in nearly 3 decades, and mortgage rates are now at a peak we haven't seen since 2001. We have to bring relief to the American people by reining in federal spending and bringing down inflation. The greatest threat to our national security is our nation's debt. And while we've been sitting in this room, that's right, the debt has crossed almost $33.6 trillion. In the time that it's going to take me to deliver this speech, we'll go up another $20 million in debt. It's unsustainable. We have to get the country back on track. Now, we know this is not going to be an easy task, and tough decisions will have to be made. But the consequences, if we don't act now, are unbearable. We have a duty to the American people to explain this to them so they understand it well. And we are going to establish a bipartisan debt commission to begin working on this crisis immediately. We all know that we also live in a time of bitter partisanship. It was noted, and it's been on display here today, right? When our people are losing their faith in government, when they're losing sight of the principles that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world, I think we got to be mindful of that. We're going to fight. We're going to fight vigorously over our core principles because they're at odds a lot of times now in this modern era. We have to sacrifice sometimes our preferences because that's what's necessary in a legislative body. But we will defend our core principles to the end. In his farewell address, thank you. In his farewell address, President Reagan explained the secret of his rapport with people. And I like to paraphrase his explanation all the time. He said, you know, they call me the great communicator, but I really wasn't that. He said, I was just communicating great things. And they're the same great things that have guided our nation since its founding. What are those great things? I call them the 7 core principles of American conservatism, but let me concede to you all, I think it's really quintessentially the core principles of our nation. I boil them down to individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, and human dignity. Those are the foundations that made us the extraordinary nation that we are. And you and I today are the stewards of those principles. The things that have made us the freest, most powerful, most successful nation in the history of the world. The things that have made us truly exceptional. In this time of great crisis, it is our duty to work together, as previous generations of great leaders have, to face these great challenges and solve these great problems. I will conclude with this. The job of the Speaker of the House is to serve the whole body, and I will. But I've made a commitment to my colleagues here that this Speaker's office is going to be known for decentralizing the power here. My office is going to be known for members being more involved and having more influence in our processes and all the major decisions that are made here, for predictable processes and regular order. We owe that to the people. That's right. And I want to make this commitment to you, to my colleagues here and on the other side of the aisle as well. My office is going to be known for trust and transparency and accountability, for good stewardship of the people's treasure, for the honesty and integrity that is incumbent upon us, all of us, here in the people's house. Our system of government is not a perfect system. It's got a lot of challenges, but it is still the best one in the world, and we have an opportunity to preserve it. Last thing I'm going to say is a message to the rest of the world. They have been watching this drama play out for a few weeks. We've learned a lot of lessons, but you know what? Through adversity, it makes you stronger. And we want our allies around the world to know that this body of lawmakers is reporting again to our duty stations. Let the enemies of freedom around the world hear us loud and clear. The People's House is back in business. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi ho, it's off to work we go. Hi ho, hi ho. Hi
We
ho.
will do our duty here. We will serve you well. We will govern well, and we'll make you proud in this institution again. We're going to fight every day to make sure that is true. I look forward to the days ahead. I genuinely believe in my heart that the best days of America are still ahead of us. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Okay, the immediacy that we live in a world where if we don't have
Thank you.
anything within a day or two, we're upset.
I'm now ready to take the oath of office, and I ask the Dean of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Harold Rogers of Kentucky, to please administer the oath of office.
Okay, here we go. A little bit more pomp before
Mr. Speaker Designee, congratulations on your election.
Thank you, sir.
When our founding fathers chose a bold, new, and innovative new self-rule government, it was met by deep skepticism by the world's monarchs.
Kentucky
They
is
said
the leader in
self-rule
having really, really old people
is
in
only a
the
dream.
House and in the Senate, by the way.
Our
Also
founders
home of
said
Mitch McConnell.
They're right. It's the American dream.
Amen.
Now it's our dream. We're in charge. The speakership of the United States House of Representatives is the crucial outpost for the well-being of the people's government, the keeper, if you will, of the dream. Sir, if you wish to assume this awesome responsibility, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter. So help you God?
I do, so help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Speaker.
An historic event, the swearing in of the second Speaker of the House, having the first Speaker of the 118th Congress been removed by vote. and he got through the thing.
Would y'all like to get right into governing?
Yeah.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, that is a nice ring to it, by the way.
All
Mr.
right.
Speaker, I offer a privilege resolution to notify the Senate of the election of Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House of Representatives and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
There we go. More pomp and circumstance.
House Resolution 810. Resolve that a message be sent to the Senate to inform that body that Mike Johnson, a representative from the state of Louisiana, has been elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Without objection, the resolution is agreed to, and the motion to consider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, to notify President Biden of the election of Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, I offer a privilege resolution and ask for its immediate consideration.
Again, a little bit more.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 811. Resolve that the clerk be instructed to inform the President of the United States that the House of Representatives has elected Mike Johnson, a representative from the state of Louisiana, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Without objection, the resolution is agreed to, and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Thank you.
Somebody's got to wake him up and tell him.
All right. The chair will take this occasion to note that the speaker's announced policies with respect to particular aspects of the legislative process placed in the record on January 9, 2023 will continue in effect for the remainder of the 118th Congress. The chair announces that the speaker has delivered to the clerk a letter dated October 25, 2023, listing members in the order in which each shall act as Speaker pro tempore under Clause 8B3 of Rule 1. The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives. I hereby designate Representative Steve Scalise to exercise any authority regarding assembly, reassembly, convening, or reconvening of the House pursuant to House Concurrent Resolution 1, Clause 12 of Rule 1, and any concurrent resolution of the concurrent Congress as may contemplate my designation of members to exercise similar authority. In the event of the death or inability of that designee, the alternate members of the House listed in the letter bearing this date that I have placed with the clerk are designated in turn for the same purpose.
Okay.
Signed sincerely, Mike Johnson, Speaker.
So what he's done is
the chair lays before the House
a list of those that would succeed him should something happen to him as a pro temp.
Kevin F. McCumber, Clerk of the House, Washington, D.C. Mr. Clerk, I hereby appoint the Honorable Patrick McHenry, the Honorable Adrian Smith, the Honorable Andy Harris, the Honorable Guy Reschenthaler, the Honorable Rob Whitman, the Honorable Ben Klein, the Honorable Richard Hudson, and the Honorable John Joyce to act as Speaker pro tempore to sign and roll bills and joint resolutions through the remainder of the 118th Congress. Signed sincerely, Mike Johnson, Speaker.
Without objection, the appointments are approved, and the House will be in recess subject to a call of chair pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1. We'll be back soon. Yep, there we go.
We'll be back soon. That's my line, dude. That's not what the Speaker of the House says. Obviously, he doesn't have a lot of experience, having just been Speaker for about 3.5 minutes. Hello, never give up.
And the House is scheduled to come back in just a few minutes and debate a resolution supporting Israel.
Okay.
And we will certainly go live to that when that happens.
We will monitor that when that happens. I won't be live. I'm going to be signing off here in just a few minutes. Who is Louisiana Congressman Johnson, the new Speaker of the House? That's something everybody's going to be asking, as you can see. And the point I was going to make, we live in a time that we expect immediacy, and we are often given immediacy, especially with social media. I bring this up because of a comment made from the mushroom people, evidently, that Mike Johnson has just elevated to a serious force in the Republican Party, and I totally believe that the mushroom people are right. He may not be out of consideration for, he's probably under consideration at the moment for vice president, for anybody in that contingent that is trying to seek the Republican nomination through the primary process. So an excellent speech by both candidates, both sides of the aisle. And I honestly, I feel better having him at the moment. Just after that speech, I feel better having him in there than I believe I would have felt about having anybody else in there at this time from that Republican contingent. Just putting that out there. So thank you all for being here. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, Butch. I saw your comment about weatherman and politician. I've been both. So, if in case you don't know, I ran against. I started in politics before this, but I came into prominence. I ran against Mike Pence, who went on to become vice president of the United States, and I went on to host the Goofus Doofus Hour.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Winner, chicken dinner. Yeah, but I've got a whole lot more stress, or a whole lot less stress, and I have a whole lot more fun than, and I don't have a 2x4 up my butt, just, because I think he probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit of a puppet.
Haven't had to give up your morals and
I haven't had to give up my morals or anything else. No, and that's why I wasn't. That's why I wasn't successful. I didn't compromise my beliefs. But anyway, enough about that. I'll be back on tonight at 9:00. I'll be on sometime between 8:30 and 8:45, probably, with some news coverage. I have a talk show podcast, and it's called Doofus After Dark on the American Doofus channel. I'm honored to have Chris join me on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We have panels on other nights at times. We haven't for a while because everything's starting to heat up. But Chris isn't my only guest. I have lots of people on, including the legend herself, Lori Arnold. And so if you haven't, please subscribe to the show and hit the subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when we're on. And if you would hit that like button, it does help the channel. Greatly appreciate you being here, hanging out, having some fun. Appreciate your comments in the chat. And we have a new Speaker of the House. His name's Mike Johnson, from good old strong American name, Mike Johnson from Louisiana. And oh, my pleasure, Trish. Thank you for being here. Nancy, Butch, Lori, Sable, everybody that was here. I don't remember everybody. Pink Flamingo was here. Everybody that's hung out, everybody part of the chat. Greatly appreciate it. Love y'all. And I'll be on again tonight. So hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. It's all right. Everything's going to be all right.